Good evening, SpeedGaming 3. My name is Mark Magus, and I'm joined by Jim the Eternal, and we are here for a Timespinner Randomizer run. How are you tonight, Jim?
I'm doing excellent. I am really excited to see this race. All of these races have been very unique so far, and I'm sure these runners will show us a really good time.
Indeed, and we have a bunch of people coming in off of a great race that just finished over on SpeedGaming 4 between Coolio MZX and Mikaneko Pi, which was close, about 4 minutes apart in the end, due to a couple of endgame routing decisions, but very tight through most of it.
Excellent. Well, the race timer has started, so as soon as the stream catches up, we'll be off and running.
Excellent, so good luck to the runners, and yes, this is Timespinner Randomizer. If anyone didn't just come over from the other Timespinner Randomizer game, this is a Metroidvania with time travel where you hop back and forth between two worlds, and wow, that sure is an Empire Orb Plus off the bat. How about that big fist?
Amazing.
So,
well, they're definitely off to a good start. Empire Orb, one of the better weapons in the game, and with the damage rando, it's even better than it is in vanilla.
And fire on that spell, so they'll have access to fire checks as soon as they can head up that way and choose to do so, but not something they'll have to worry about. But yes, absolutely, that Empire Orb Plus, very possible. Having been forced to equip it off the start of the game, the runners will just leave it on and never switch to any other melee weapon. The Empire Orb is very popular, and with that plus from damage rando, we'll see it just melting enemies.
And we already see our first Divergence Planeswater going left for the first few checks.
And it's a very relevant one. Planeswater finding Lightwall. Lightwall gives us infinite, slow, but infinite vertical movement. So there are a whole bunch of checks on the right that Planeswater will be able to do, and VulKitsune will not.
Planeswater, interestingly, not opening up the warp room at the very start of the game, whereas Kit's taking the couple of seconds to make sure that that room is available should they need to warp there.
Kits did the NPC camp warp room. Yeah, interesting. May just be planning to pick it up out of Caves of Banishment, Upper Caves, if they like doing that routing. Hard to say. Also interesting that Planeswater only did one of the left checks of the two that are available before the Canturn fight.
Planeswater already taking advantage of that early infinite vertical to make a check that is not available to Kits above the sealed caves. Or Caves of Banishment. And now Kits has Celestial Sash, so it becomes a lot less of a problem.
Sure does. I didn't catch where that sash was, but must be in the water here under the drawbridge. Yeah, there it is.
The drawbridge, amazing.
Wow, so that light wall was extremely relevant for about 30 seconds.
Things immediately evening out, and both of them almost in the same place. Kit's maybe 10 seconds ahead.
And yeah, that's mostly the difference of that time taken to do that check on the left and the additional check down in the basement, which the check on the left, Kits will just be picking up as they walk past, but yeah, the basement one, that too. They will probably be going past both of them, so.
So the next few checks are going to be pretty much on autopilot. They're going to pick up the basement checks on the way into the castle. There's going to be a basement loop that they're probably both going to go through. And at that point, we may see a divergence. But most likely, both of them will continue on up the tower, given the easy access to infinite vertical.
Yeah, with the Sash, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we just do the same routing through the whole castle basement loop and the whole towers all the way up to the top. Complete both the first 2 mandatory boss fights before heading over to the left. Hope to pick up pyramid keys on the way. We did pick up security key card B down in the basement. That is an absolutely required item. Nice to see, nice and early. Not have to worry about it.
A lot of progression early. One of the time center pieces already, security key card B, infinite vertical. They're really moving very fast here.
Absolutely. Obviously, still can come down to either a water mask hunt or a last piece of the time spinner kind of thing. But for now, it's got to feel good to have a lot of the game open. Not have to be doing a lot of backtracking back and forth across the world.
Also seeing a lot of powerful weapons available to our runners. Empire Plus right at the very beginning. They've picked up Umbra, they've picked up Radiant. They have a lot of options when it comes to their boss fights.
Yeah, I didn't see an actual Radiant orb. We do have that Light Wall Plus, which indicates that when they do find Radiant, it will be Plus, which is nice to know, because it is very useful in a lot of boss fights. Kits is heading for the pink room right off the bat to see what's in there, and finds a Star of Lothium. That'll boost their raw damage output a bit.
Nice combat tool. It allows you to make a third attack when your first 2 primary attacks on cooldown, effectively giving you time and a half the damage if you're just spamming your melee.
And we actually do have a divergence now, I think. Well, we'll see what Planeswater does. Kits is heading up to the tower first and skipping over Golden Idol. I like to think of this as the I don't think I'm going to get pyramid keys anytime soon approach. If you skipped over the keys by doing this, then it's a long walk back. But if you're correct that you're not going to end up getting the keys before coming in here so that they won't be active, then it's slightly more efficient in terms of backtracking. And yeah, Planeswater heading into that first boss fight.
And we have Feline Sentry in place of the Golden Idol. This is the first boss of the game, affectionately named Boots by the community.
And yes, that cat is named after the voice actor who does the meows. And that location, which in vanilla hosts the Golden Idol, is the first of, as we mentioned, there are 3 locations in the past that have to be fought with boss fights in order to open up the military hangar and gain access to the end game. So we will see both runners doing this boss fight, and the one that Kits is going to head into in a moment up in the tower.
With the boss randomizer on, we will see bosses in the locations they're not usually, but scaled to fit the HP and damage output of the boss that is normally in that location. So Boots scaled up from his traditional early start, and over on the right we'll see Azure Queen scaled up from their position in a relatively early area of the game.
Which still doesn't actually make it that hard of a fight.
True story.
On the way up the left side of the tower, we did pick up a second time spinner gear, and then up in the top, just outside of Elana's room, we found those Twin Pyramid keys. So once they get out of here, Kits will have access to fast travel and to the present. But they'll have to come all the way out of this tower to get to the warp room down at the bottom before they can do it. And the water mask is up here, so the tower's just loaded with key items.
Everything just falling into our runners' hands. Very excited to see how fast they'll make the seed.
Oh, really? 8 minutes in and we're just cruising. We're gonna just, finish up the past. We've got fire, so we'll probably see the vines burned on the way to the maw.
Kit's looking pretty far ahead right now, but remember that Kit still needs to go back and fight the boss in the Golden Idol location, the Feline Sentry. So there's a little bit more out-of-the-way backtracking that Kit needs to do before they'll be caught up.
That is true, and this is actually the thing I was alluding to earlier. I think net Kits gets a slight advantage from backtracking in that Planeswater had to go all the way to the Golden Idol and walk all the way back. And because of getting the Twin Pyramid Keys up in the tower, Kits will be able to activate the portal and could warp shard out of the Golden Idol location, saving 20 seconds. Otherwise, things are extremely similar.
So a minor time save due to rounding, and it looks like it's going to pay off. Planeswater picking up their Twin Pyramid Key as they move into the Azure Queen fight. Double checking that Umbra is indeed a good orb. Turns out Umbra indeed a good orb. Short look at the Azure Queen.
So yeah, if you're looking to get a sense of sync, what you're going to be looking for is either after the boss fight on Kit's side or just on Planeswater's side, which of them takes the next warp first is basically your mark. It's quite close. I'm not actually sure how this is going to count out.
I believe Kits hasn't warped yet, so they may not be able to use the warp shards to get out of the Golden Idol.
Kits did tag the warp as they walked out of the towers.
Perfect.
They did take a quick warp to activate it. So that is on.
And did you see where our present location is?
I didn't. I just saw them warp to Castle Keep. I'm not sure if they checked it.
Understandable. It's now on the Feline Sentry fight. Feline Sentry somewhat unique among bosses, having no particular weaknesses, so use whatever's strongest.
Does have strength though, so there are a couple things to avoid. Yep, and there's that warp shard happening. Oh, and we're in sync.
Planeswater checked their present location, and I missed it. Wow,
I think I saw library, but both of them deciding to finish up the past first, and yeah.
Neck and neck, within milliseconds of each other.
Neither of them skipping waterfall.
A good choice. I've been burned by that before.
SDG Sean confirming in chat that it was the library for the present.
Looks like both of them going back to the upper caves of banishment as well.
Indeed, while they've got the water mask.
It's going to take a second and grab the extra checks here that Planeswater got earlier. Now we see that routing paying off in the slightest way. This is the power of 30 seconds of light wall.
Yep, absolutely. Puts you 10 seconds ahead. Very good point from in chat. With library being the present location, and since they both have tablet, there are a whole bunch of quick, easy locations that they could have picked up from the present with that warp, and both are very focused on folklore the past before they deal with that stuff. It's an interesting choice. This Upper Caves of Banishment is not how I personally would have routed it, I think. I think I would have grabbed it on the way out of Maw.
Since the elevator takes you to the nearby area?
Yeah. Or if you have the warp tagged, then do Maw and then warp shard up to that spot and take it from there.
Mhm.
But, at which point, I guess it doesn't really matter which order.
One
you
of
do it
the
in.
many routing optimizations that I've seen people take before is going left at the start to tag the warp room, which, had they done it, would have saved some of this walk that they're taking now.
Yes, they would have already done the check that Planeswater just did. Basically, they would have done this walk earlier and be starting from this room that Planeswater's in instead. The next maybe interesting point of potential divergence will be to see if either of them chooses to double back for the fight in the Kantarin location, or if they press on to the left and ignore it. It's a whole boss fight for just one check.
Both of them seem very focused on full clearing the checks they have available, with the duck into waterfall, with the divergence down into the upper caves of banishment. Seems pretty likely they'll want to take every check they have on the way. I think they've both been burned by missing hits in the past. And there we go, Planeswater now immediately ducking into the Kantarin room.
Not even taking
Zarian
a safety
there.
save, just popping right back in. And that's the end of Zarian.
Very quick fight. Weak to Radiant. Radiant doing quality work there, and Kitsune taking the save first before ducking back in.
Yeah, I personally like to take the safety save there. It's a very late game location, so it has a lot of health, and if it's, say, Zarian, it can be tough, and taking a death on it would be frustrating.
It's also making short work of Zarian.
Yeah, and that's that. We didn't mention it, but in the lake right before that, they did both pick up the Timespinner wheel. That is the most critical part of the Timespinner because it activates the ability to stop time.
We also
As
see
well-
our runners.
It's just being mandatory.
We also see our runners using their fire orbs to burn the vines, which will open up some additional checks in the present once they eventually get there.
Yep, so as I mentioned at the top, it's a game about time travel. We have the past and the present, and that change to the world state, burning vines, means that an obstruction is no longer there. Access to that
Slight
region.
divergence here. Kit's opting to take the upper route, which gets a couple of different checks, but moves a bit quicker due to not being underwater, whereas Planeswater getting a few more chests on the way.
Ah, yes. This is, I don't often see people do. I know it is a popular thing. I don't often see people who opt to skip the underwater things because they're swimming slow.
Kitsune popping into the Azure Queen room, here replaced by Ilana. The fight
Who's
that is
weak
normally
to
at the top of the
fist
towers.
in a low health location, so so much for Alana.
Alright. And yet another divergence. Planeswater now going straight to Maw, so skipping the upper Lake Serene chests. Skipping a couple of the burnable vine locations?
Yeah, so we have to imagine they may plan to just like do Maw first and then warp up there.
With how quickly the
Or
progression
maybe
has been
decide to just
coming.
go.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past them to have decided that, the rest of the progression will come in time as well, and maybe fade the parts of the present that they don't need to go to.
That is certainly a reasonable gamble with security card B and 3 pieces of the Timespinner. If you pick up D card and down in the caves, then you might just push and come back to this later if you need it.
And Kit's now heading back around to the water parts of Upper Lake Serene, so following in the footsteps of Planeswater, but a bit behind now that Planeswater has decided to fade some of the Upper Lake Serene checks.
Indeed. Planeswater closing on the jackpot room, so named because 4 chests all close together. And not much of a jackpot.
What did Kits get out of Upper Lake Serene? We saw Kobo there, and we saw the A key card. That's the primary differences here. So Kobo unlocks an optional boss fight in the library in the present, which can have 3 checks, may be relevant. And the A key card unlocks a largish late game area and 2 somewhat difficult to get to chests in the middle of the library, and the lab. Any of which could potentially have something important. And if they do, Kits will definitely have the advantage because of the full clear.
Yes, if they have something, and if Kits chooses to go to those locations, all of which are somewhat slow and late game, so many runners may prefer to put them off.
You see Planeswater picking up a Warp Shard in the
Ooh,
crystal.
Planeswater is going for the no gas mask Maw fight here. So this
Planeswater leaning hard into not wanting to go into Lake Desolation.
Yep, so this is technically out of logic. You'll notice the oxygen meter over Planeswater's head, which is going to run out and then will start taking damage. The damage does continue after defeating the boss for a little while until the animation completes, so it's very important to manage your health when doing this. Part of the reason it's technically out of logic, but that's that third past boss out of the way and done. Now there's some no oxygen area in the present that they'll have to deal with if they choose to go to Lake Desolation, which, as you suggested, they're probably going to avoid.
This is a very, very decisive way to indicate what you think this seed is going to provide, and I'm so enthused. I hope this pays off for them.
It's great. It doesn't take a lot of time to backtrack to the mall location, but having just knocked it out of the way, not having to worry about it, being able to just press on, if it's right, could be a huge advantage.
And if they truly don't need to go to the Lake Desolation area, the area of the present that is now gated by the same gas that boss was gated by, then this will have paid off, not only not going into that area, but also not having to spend the time to search for the gas mask, which Kit still doesn't have. It's got to be somewhere here in the present.
So the top of the library had that Radiant Orb Plus, so if they bother to switch to it, that can be very helpful in some boss fights. Empire Orb Plus is really good, so they might just stick with that. We'll see.
Sometimes all you need is Fist. Kit's now into the library, he's hunting for that gas mask.
And Planeswater is actually heading into the upper Lake Desolation.
Amazing. Because we don't have the
no
D
card is kind of forced to.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have some oxygen racing.
Rough. Well, the gamble may not have paid off, but this is equally exciting.
And on the right, you can see Kit's fighting Nightmare in the Ifrit location that was unlocked by the Kobo check, as mentioned, up in the top of the library. I think the first check didn't have anything interesting, but there are two more after the boss fight. And Nightmare is the true boss of the game, but has very consistent patterns, so at a lower health location, not too hard to deal with, especially if you have Radiant.
And Planeswater demolishing the somewhat late game boss that was located in the Feline Sentry's original position. Genza transported from the Science Lab and reduced to the Feline Sentry's default health pool.
And Planeswater is now in health management zone in the lack of oxygen. The other advantage to having pushed Maw is these two chests that Planeswater just opened. Those don't appear until you've defeated the boss in the Maw location. So Kits may be in the situation later of having to decide whether to backtrack to pick up those two items, which won't be there when they get there, hot on Planeswater's heels in 30 seconds.
Planeswater finding a room with oxygen somehow. That's fascinating. But apparently very comfortable with the idea that they're just going to have to use consumables to get through here. And now they're running into the problem of those vines. The vines they neglected to burn by not clearing Upper Lake Serene.
Oh yeah, the vine wall is not an obstruction you want to run into when you're running oxygen free. Yes, there's that one room down in the caves that because of it's a bubble of air because it's lower and oxygen's heavy or something. I don't know. Oh wow, that Genza fight is nothing.
Right? It disappears completely.
I blinked and barely saw that it even existed on Kits' screen.
Plane's now realizing that some checks were missed, going back to get those checks. So they will be caught up with Kits' pool. They'll have the A key card, they'll have Kobo. And that actually is going to put the two of them in sync again relatively soon, having had all of the same checks and gone to all of the same places in slightly different orders.
More or less, although until we have gas, if Kits continues to wait to find gas mask before doing the fight at Maw, there will be that fight and the two locations it unlocks.
That is true. Still a little bit of an advantage for Planes once they sync up.
A really interesting bit of optimization, Planes decided not to take the 2 seconds to burn the third set of vines because they know they're going to go across the bottom this time and don't need to go through that room.
Back to no more oxygen. Good luck, Planeswater. And there we have security keycard D over on Kits' side. All the way at the far edge of Lake Desolation.
That would be the next check that Planeswater was blocked from by those unburned vines, exactly as it happens. But they'll be getting to them soon.
Planes going underneath first, understandable. Those are the checks that they haven't made yet. But Kitsune now in a position. Looks like Kitsune is still doing the full clear thing, going back and getting a few more checks before warping out and heading over to the right.
Yeah, looks like we're doing all of the... We're in Upper Lake Desolation. We're going to get all the checks that we can get up there. We won't be able to get the two behind Maw, but other than that, we'll get it all. I didn't see if Kits picked up the skeleton.
Mask. I was confused. There's still no gas mask.
Oh, yeah, no.
Does the skeleton hold the gas mask? Is that how they died? No,
just a metal wristband, but Planeswater heading on into Zarian Cave. This is a very late game area.
We do have that A key card.
We do have that A key card that lets you in. That's most of what it does for you. About 8 checks in here, and one very high-level boss fight at the end of it.
Wef makes a good point. Planeswater didn't grab the D key card either, so those upper Lake Serene checks that they were blocked from by the vines, they still haven't gone back to grab those.
Right, they do have access to that room from the left side, and they just...
That's what they're looking for.
Hopefully
They don't
just
need the
routed
gas mask,
to skip it rather than having faded it in their brain.
It's an unfortunate choice.
Oh,
On the other hand,
Year 3 down in Zarian Caves, though, so this was the right choice.
this is definitely going to be a required path to take for both of our runners. That Planeswater is taking it early may end up playing to their advantage. Kits having taken that D key card and run all the way to the right, opening up the B key card doors as well. So they've now made it over to the Varn de Grey Towers. No elevator key cards, so there's still a lot of checks in this area that aren't open to them. But the path to the
no
lab
C,
is...
so yeah, just about half of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess they have B, so they could cross to the right side, and oh no elevator and no C. So yeah, that it becomes complicated to navigate when you have only half of the things.
Very.
Because you can do stuff to get to some of the locations, and there's that elevator key card down in Zarian's cave.
Where is our gas mask? This is what Kits has been looking for this whole time. And Kits has decided it's not worth it. They have the D key card. They have everything they need. They're just going to kill Maw and move on to the lab.
Well, and that plasma crystal that they tapped, maybe not.
Oh, maybe not.
The plasma crystal down at the bottom of the mall room is in logic if you have Teleria without gas mask. So that and this check that they just did just have to be checked. Looks like we are going for Maw. Forget it, we're going to do the fight.
Bravo. I applaud this choice at this point, especially considering all of the checks that require the gas mask in the present, they've already checked now.
Right, yeah. So
they're not going to need
it. If you can do it, if you have the heals, there's no downside at this point.
Planeswater now picking up that D key card, so the route to the right is open to them.
Did Kits check this room here that Planeswater's in with the guarded by the D key card? I didn't catch if they...
Not sure, but nothing
relevant there in the library. I'm sure they'll be there soon if not.
True.
And it doesn't have anything.
Yep. And Kits now, yep, they've beaten their final required boss in the past, and with that B key card in hand are rushing straight for the lab.
Yep, they're off to the
races.
Skipping right past the Temporal Gyre. That was an option.
Pretty common choice.
Checks. Could have literally any fight in it.
But Kits is still missing 2 pieces of the Timespinner, so they're not in go mode yet, and they're going to be hoping to find them on the way. That would be the most convenient. And the way this seat is shaped up for them so far, barring the gas mask, there's some expectation that maybe that will be there. Maybe it'll just be handed to them like everything else.
Sure, it's 2 pieces. They could well be on the road. We know that, of course, that one of them is very much not, but...
Be interesting to see where Kits goes once they've beaten whoever's in Genza's location and seeing that they're still missing at least 1 piece. Winfei Maiden makes a good point. Spindle is going to make or break this. If Spindle is in a convenient location on the way to the lab, then Planeswater has a huge advantage right now.
Yeah, and if it's buried somewhere weird, then it will depend a lot on who decides to go where. Wef makes the choice that Kits might be able to bail on the back half of Zarian Caves after finding the gear. If they have the spindle when they get there, that is true. If they don't have the spindle when they get there and they bail, and the spindle turns out to be behind elevator keycard, then that would be a catastrophe.
Succubus Hairkin, the double jump, no longer necessary, but still convenient quality of life.
Yeah, it gives... because the Celestial Sash halts your horizontal momentum entirely when you use it, having Succubus Hairpin is quite nice for movement through trickier areas, and in boss fights and such.
We now see the 2 of them in lockstep, full clearing the lab, Planeswater maybe 15-20 seconds behind Kits. Kits opting to go into the Spider Hell room, normally gated by the A keycard.
And really not a big deal to... This room is extremely tedious if you don't have good weaponry for dealing with the spiders, but Radiant Plus just walks through them. Planeswater trying to show us why we call it Spider Hell. Those those red blood laser things coming out of the spiders are walls and are impassable, so you must kill the spiders to go in and to come out. And if you don't have a good way of taking them out, it can be very tedious.
E key card on Kits' side, so that opens up a few more checks in the library.
Oh, and I see Kits opted to not peek Experiment 13, but just go fight it, because it's
pretty
technically a
fast.
boss, but really it's a quick fight to just do.
Kit's capable of fighting Ravenlord, but chose not to on the way up.
That's correct. It's just heading straight for the Genza fight location. Sticking with the plan of doing the required stuff in the lab and then deciding where to go. And let's see if Planeswater is tempted. Planeswater is tempted by the Ravenlord.
Planeswater knows that they're looking for exactly one more thing before it's all over. We see Cantorin, Ravenlord's location, a fairly endgame boss, in the location of a very endgame boss. Of course,
Which, if we didn't have Empire Plus, would be a big deal. And all that for some jerky.
not a huge payoff.
Hope they were hungry.
Kit's going after Ravenlord now. Same deal. I may have missed who was in the Genza location. Was it over that fast?
It was. We'll see when Planeswater gets there. I think I missed it too. Oh, Varnagrath.
Well, Varnagrath responds favorably to Radiant, which makes sense. Kits with that Radiant Plus just demolishing somebody like that. And Planeswater pulled it as well.
Yep. It's is gonna head for the Gyre, I think?
That is what it looks like. This is one of the locations that is a bit harder to get through, not very check dense. There are 3 checks here, and a lot of enemies to fight in order to get to them. But maybe taking that gamble that by going here early, Kits will be able to get there before Planeswater.
Yeah, like a lot of this late game routing becomes which risk you take, and if you hit the one that pays off, which is not early tower. Planeswater knocking out those 3 quick checks and finding nothing. This has been rewarded with a shiny rock.
And what a reward. That's very valuable to somebody.
Oh, and it was behind the V card, the very check dense location that was rewarded in the lab. So Planeswater is now in go mode.
Oof. It's been very back and forth leading up to here with all the divergences and the different ways that they decided to route it. And Planeswater's decision's now paying off. Ready to go, and Kit's still looking for 2 pieces of the Timespinner.
Gotta imagine that Kits will probably make it to the V room fairly soon. But we may be putting off the Zarian Caves for relatively late.
Kits looks like they're prioritizing checks that are more out of the way. Maybe, again, hoping that they'll gamble on a location that Planeswater decided not to go to. But, you know, if the check-dense areas, which have more checks, happen to have the thing you need, that definitely can backfire, as it appears to be doing so here. Planeswater now going through the endgame Ancient Pyramid. 2 more big boss fights after a bit of extremely vertical navigation.
Gotta think, actually, you don't have Gas Mask. There's something weird going on in this seed. And I don't know if that prioritizes you to think everything else is going to be in the easy locations, or that something's going to be somewhere out of the way. But
I'm very curious now. Where was that gas mask?
yeah, we might need a spoiler log, because I don't think we're ever going to find out. Up in the tower? You can't be in the tower.
Yeah, it can't be in the tower. It can't be
It's
anywhere
left.
past the military hangar. They both check bombardiers, which is
Zarian, actually
the
on
obvious.
Zarian? That could be. Okay, and here's Planeswater coming onto the final 2 back-to-back boss fights. The first one, Ifrit. Kind of a joke.
A high HP boss and a high HP boss location, lots of great damaging abilities, and an unfortunate weak spot.
Okay, but Grown Up Daddy does make at least a appropriate, fitting end to the scene. Even if he's also weak to the nice big Plasma Plus that Planeswater has out. You can see the big damage you can put out if he misses, and that's time.
Congratulations to Planeswater. Very well run race. I hope we can get them in here for an interview. I'm not sure what that process is, but let's...
Sorry for the brief quiet as we all are working to get Planeswater in for the interview. Looks like he'll be joining us momentarily. And Kits is going to go for the Zarian fight, so we will get to find out whether that's where the gas mask was. With Volterolus at Zarian, a late game boss in a high health location. But we're also in endgame, so should be able to handle it no big deal. Wouldn't want to be here early.
And here we have Planeswater joining us.
Hello.
Well done, Planeswater. Good race.
Thanks. Still winding down from that one.
Yeah, it was definitely hype on our side.
Yeah, great game.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm assuming the gas. Have you seen the gas mask? I'm assuming it was in Varndegroth Towers, right?
We haven't
seen the gas mask yet.
Okay.
So probably.
I'm so glad Merchant Crow is selling those high potions.
So I wanted to ask you, did that play into your decision to beat Maw out of Logic? What led you to that?
No, I was already gonna go for it. Well, personally, I don't know. I like going for Maw out of Logic. Dealing with the repercussions of that is pretty fun, IMO, and it like usually you get a bunch of healing items and you don't really use a lot of them. So I just think of it as like an outlet for that. And I'm just glad that Merchant Crow was selling more potions, but I'm pretty sure I had some other healing items I could have used.
Well, it definitely paid off for you. You got a lot of forward momentum as a result from it.
Mm-hmm.
It is now looking for that spindle.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
we'll see how long it takes them.
He was in the lab, and behind the B card. I've gotten bit by not checking like the let hands many times, so I wanted to check that like almost as soon as possible.
Sure. We have found the gas mask. It was in Upper Sealed Caves, in the underwater section.
So still behind both the card and...
So it was behind Elevator Key and Water Mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
An Elevator Key, as I recall, was in a fairly out-of-the-way spot as well.
Yeah, it was... I think the Elevator Key was in Lower Sealed Caves, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, so that was some...
So that was the expected routing.
Kind of mean logic, yeah. I
Incredible.
assumed it was in like up in like Barnagroth Towers, like when I was like dashing past it, like, oh, that's probably where the gas mask was, but no, it was a little more roundabout.
So, Planeswater, it was interesting that you chose to skip the upper left, like the last bit of Lake Serene in the past. Not do those last 2 fire checks the first time you went there before you headed for Maw.
Yeah, I forgot I hadn't done those. I mean, I like going for Maw first, and eventually warping back to Lake Serene warp, finishing them up. But yeah, I then forget that I haven't actually finished that circuit pretty often. Unfortunately, yeah, it plays.
Oh, it was interesting to see you bump your nose on the vines and
Mm-hmm.
in a low oxygen environment and have to warp out and come around the other way.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I felt that at that point, like the D key card had to be somewhere around there, which it's what I was looking for to go to the right,
Well, that's exactly correct.
Yeah.
Kit's now finding their Timespinner spindle, so ready to move on. Planeswater, how did you how did you think you were particularly ahead, particularly behind? You kind of came out of the Zarian cave with an extra gear, and
I mean, I didn't really know beforehand. After like what I found in Zarian Cave, that's when I felt that I was probably ahead, but you never know.
Well, going into Zarian caves when you did definitely paid off for you.
Yeah, finding that gear so after doing an early trip down there has got to feel really good, knowing that you're only looking
as soon
for.
as I found it, that felt really good.
Now seeing Kitsune follow through the ancient pyramid. Jumping up the stairs. I love this. This is very, very slightly faster than just dashing up the stairs. The number I've been told is if you manage to avoid stairs throughout the entirety of the ancient pyramid, you save roughly 3 seconds.
And you get to make lots of funny noises.
Always a plus.
Yeah, that's one piece of tech that I haven't fully internalized, so I don't often do it. Only if I remember.
Also a nice swag light wall skip from Kits. Completely unnecessary with the Celestial Sash, but nice to show it off.
Always looks good. It's showing similar mastery of the Ifrit safe spot.
So, thinking back to the very beginning of the Seed Planeswater, how did you feel when you discovered the light wall going left?
Well, ambivalent. Obviously, finding logic is always good. Finding time-consuming logic in the form of the light wall, not necessarily so good, but good thing I checked this one chest before going right.
It was very exciting for us as viewers. Kits chose to go right immediately.
Oh.
So there was that 30 seconds where you were way ahead, and then the sash turned up. It was very funny.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Like, oh, sash, this is incredible. But wait, what if? Yeah, but worked out.
And that's GG to Kits as well.
GG.
And now we have Kits here in the commentator booth as well. Well raced. Very good job.
Hey, GG.
GG's.
So how did you feel about that seed, Kits? You were wandering all over Helen Creation in order to find that gas mask. Finally gave up.
I really wasn't really looking for the gas mask. I was just trying to find the Timespinner pieces, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was just more afraid of the gas mask locking one of them. That's why I rushed the lake area or Lake Desolate just to check that area. And then once I saw that it was empty, that's why I'm like, yeah, I think I know where gas mask is, and I really don't care. But doesn't
By
help
the-
that I've been half asleep this entire time, so it's just like, I don't even know where I'm going anymore.
I was
it's
actually going
always
to
frustrating.
ask, by the time you got to the end, after beating whoever was in Genza's boss location, you can you talk to us about kind of your routing decisions there, where you chose to check?
I just ran to the next spot that I was like, this area has checked in locations, let's go there. So that's why I just ran from place to place, to be fair.
Understandable.
Fair enough.
Well, Planeswater, Kits, thank you very much for participating. Both of you did a fantastic job. Anything you want to say to the crowd? Planeswater first?
Yeah, I mean, look forward to the other races. There's a lot of really good people in this tournament, so a lot of hype races. Keep tuned.
Kits?
I don't really have much.
Fair enough. Mark Magus, you got anything else you want to say?
Let's see, just I guess the quick programming notes. Planeswater will go on to face Crimdall in the winners brackets. Kits will face the winner of Nessman 88 versus Arrow Razor. And coming up, that's it for tonight. Tomorrow afternoon Eastern Time, we have myself versus Wef Jebster, and then we have more races throughout the week. Hope to see you all there. Thanks for watching.
Hey, thanks for hosting.
Have a good night, everybody.